So, good morning, students. I'm Ripusudan Mishra, and I'm going to talk about political science topic. I think you have discussed your third chapter, plan and development, in your classes. So, right now we are moving towards next chapter, India's external relation. So, when we talk about India's external relation, in this chapter we are going to talk about the formulation of foreign policy in India. Especially, we will talk about foreign policy of India. So, when we talk about foreign policy, making of foreign policy, formulation of foreign policy of India, so we have to study about the context, international context, sources, what sources are given in our constitution, so that we can talk about foreign policy, making of or formulation of foreign policy in India. So basically, especially when we talk about India's international relations, so international context, when we got freedom in 1947, this was the time where India was facing so many problems, so many challenges. Like in the first chapter we have discussed, India has faced three type of challenges. First one is to save a nation, and second one is to establish democracy, and third one was to how to ensure development for all. So all these problems, all these categories of problems, challenges of India's, step by step we are studying in chapter wise. So in first chapter we tackled the problem, the first problem, to save a nation. Like to save a nation, if we bifurcate these problems, so to save a nation, the problem was partition, the problem of integration, the problem of integration of princely state, the problem of reorganization of states. So all these problems we have discussed in our previous chapter. In second chapter we looked the establishment of democracy, how Indian government set up an election commission, how Indian government conducted the first general election in our country. So it was big challenge on that time when only 17 crore eligible voters were there, and they were going to contest almost 3,200 MLAs and 489 member of parliament. So it was very big issue on that time, and Sukumar Sen, under the guidance of Sukumar Sen, it was handled very smoothly. But in this chapter we are going to talk India's external relation, भारत के पड़ोसी राज्यों के साथ, भारत के विदेशों के साथ, भारत के अन्य राज्यों के देशों के साथ कैसे संबंध हैं, and how it can be decided in our country, what is the source exactly, what is the source of Indian constitution, where we can talk about the foreign policy of India, the formulation of foreign policy of India. So basically, very first we will talk about international context. So you can see here the war, it means Second World War, on the time of 1947. So just before 47 you can see the war, Second World War, which was going on during the period of 1939 to 1945. So many of countries in the world were facing this problem. India was also indulged in this indirectly through Britishers. And the second one, conditions, was British government left behind the legacy of many international disputes. It means lastly British government wanted to divide India into many parts. It can be justified through the example of integration of princely state. Like princely state has power to determine they can go with Pakistan, either they can go with Pakistan or they can go with India, and third option was also there, to be independent. So the paramountcy of British government, of the on the princely state lapsed, then there were three options to princely state. So because of that things, the problem had been created. And one more thing which I want to talk here: partition. On the basis of two nation theory, Muslim League wanted India would be divided into two parts: for Muslim Pakistan, for Hindustan India. So British government accepted this two nation theory, and further it was divided into two nations. So partition, and partition was, partition was traumatic condition. Partition was unplanned, it was very traumatic. So partition, the problem emerged through partition. India was facing. And third and last one, the condition where Cold War tensions were going on. Entire nation, actually entire world is divided into two major superpower. The group of two major superpower, one is leading of USA, and second one is leading by USSR. So the world was divided into two poles, and just because of that thing, we can say world was bipolar. And many decolonized country which were emerged, which were independent, which were get independent immediately, they were joining either USA group or USSR group. So India, on that time, India's stand was very clear. Due to South-South cooperation, India wanted to be separate, not to join either alliance. So India's foreign policy accepted not to join either alliance. So that was known as NAM, especially NAM. So Cold War tension, in the Cold War tensions, it was a very big problem on that time. And when we talk about the formulation of foreign policy in this context, then why we are talking about foreign policy? Is it given? The provision regarding it, the provision regarding to formulate foreign policy is given in our constitution? Yes, it is given. In DPSP Article 51 talk about foreign policy to foster peaceful and secure international relation. So it talk about, and what were the goals, how it has been decided by the leaders, what were the goals behind it. So basically our leaders wanted to establish hard earned sovereignty, and they wanted to gain territorial integrity, and they wanted to establish economic development for all. So in long term, we can see India's government had long-term goals, and it can be classified in three categories. Lastly, we are going to talk about the factors, which determining factors were there, and it means we can say how India's foreign policy decided, on which basis, on which factors were responsible to determine the India's foreign policy. Basically, there were several factors like NAM, non-alignment movement. As we discussed here, India's stand on that time not to join either alliance, Alliance means bipolar world, USA camp and USSR camp. And Nehru's role, Jawaharlal Nehru was very charismatic leader across the world on that time. He was much popular. So, and Nehru was not only prime minister from the time of 1946 1946 to 1964. It was also kept a designation foreign minister, so he was also a foreign minister of India. So Nehru's role was very crucial. He played very important role to determine India's foreign policy. And Panchsheel, India, 28th April 1954, India signed a Panchsheel agreement with China, and this Panchsheel agreement reflected 5 principles. And when we talk about the 5 principles in Panchsheel: non-interference, non-aggression, mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, benefit sharing. So all 5 principles were discussed in Panchsheel agreement, which was signed between India's leader Nehru and Chinese leader. Okay, and the final factor which was very important, distance from 2 camp. So India's stand was very clear. We were not joined USA camp or USSR camp. We will go with NAM, South South Cooperation. इसको भी हमने नहीं ज्वाइन किया, इसको भी हमने नहीं ज्वाइन किया. सो दिस इज़ ऑल अबाउट आवर फॉरेन रिलेशंस. सो इनिशियल फैक्टर्स, so India's external relation, international context, source, where is it given, and the goal what was determined by our leaders, and factor which are directly or indirectly responsible to determine India's foreign policy. Thank you very much.